All right, I'm going to show you how to set up Inkscape to be ready to design and then laser cut in the SHS FabLab. First thing is if you want to use your own computer to install Inkscape. So if you just type in Inkscape into Google or use a link on our website, it'll bring you here and just click download Inkscape. Choose whatever type of computer you have, probably a Mac or Windows computer, download the file and install it like you install normal files. And once you run Inkscape, you should get something that looks like this. Now the first thing you want to change is you want to set the size of our file to the size of the laser cutter, just so we kind of know how much space we have to work with. To do that, it's pretty simple. Just go to File, Document Properties. First thing we want to do is set our units to inches because our machine measures things in inches. We then want to set the size of our page to not 33 inches, but we want it to be 24 inches wide and 12 inches tall, since our machine is a 2 foot wide by 1 foot tall machine. And then just close or click on the X, and our new size here should be the same size as the bed in our laser cutting machine. So if you install this yourself, the second thing you might want to do is you might want to make it so that every time you open up Inkscape, you don't have to do this every time, that it'll be set to the default size. So the way you do that is just go to File. I'm going to save this as, let's just save it my desktop for now, but I'm going to save it as a special name. I'm going to call it default and then .svg, for that's the type of file. It's a vector graphics file that we're using here. So I'm just going to save it as that. And now what I have to do is I have to go find, I'm going to close down Inkscape. I have to go find the actual file that Inkscape uses to open it up. There's another file called default, and it's in at least on Windows, it's in a kind of easy place to find. So I'm just going to open up a regular, like my computer thing. I'm going to go to C, Program Files, Inkscape, Share, and inside Share there should be a templates folder. And if you notice, there's a bunch of default files in here of like default English, other types. What I want to do is the one that says default.svg, I want to take that, I'm going to click on it and change its name. As you can see, I kind of already did this once. So I'm just going to call it default, and I'm just going to put a, let's see, -old.svg, and it's saying you got to do this, sure. And now I don't have a default file here anymore, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the one I just saved, which should be here somewhere, right here, and I'm going to copy this, Control-C to copy it, and paste it into here. And it's going to be, yes, I need a miniature, sure. And now that's my new default file. So when I open up Inkscape, it's going to actually open it up. It's going to look at that default file, and it's going to give me the page size that I want. Just a couple other things to notice. I did say that Inkscape does save files in this file type called .svg. It's a vector graphics file. So if you see those, that's an Inkscape file. Some computers, they might try to open it in Internet Explorer because it is an image file. So if it ever does that, you can either right-click on it. So for example, if I right-click on it, go to Properties, I can say I want to open this with Inkscape, and it might, like I said, it might default to Internet Explorer or Chrome or some other weird thing, or Edge. Just if it doesn't open Inkscape right away, just click Inkscape here, and then anytime in the future when you open those files, it'll open them up directly in Inkscape. A couple other things to notice when you are making something. Again, we'll get to the making stuff in some other videos, but let's say I have a thing and I want to cut this out. Remember, there's a couple things to remember. Whatever is colored in here, it's going to be etched on the laser cutter. Remember, it only etches, and it doesn't etch in color. It etches in grayscale. So be a little bit careful. For example, like if you have red on top of blue, and let's see, red on top of blue in grayscale, these things are probably the same color, or pretty close to the same color, or the same shaded gray. So you wouldn't really be able to see the difference. So just realize that. So I tend to work in grayscales, so I can really get an idea if, okay, these are going to, when they're next to each other, I'm going to be able to tell the difference. Remember, any color in here, the laser cutter is going to etch it or burn it. And if you want to cut, you have to actually, there's one little trick. So you select on your object. Again, if you don't know where these things are, we'll get to the dialogues later, but the way our machine is set up, we want to tell it to cut. We want to take the outline, any lines, and make them a certain size. So I would take the outline and make the stroke style to be, which is already set at that, 0.001 inches. The way that works is the laser cutter sees that size, it changes its laser settings to the more powerful ones, and it cuts through the material. If it sees anything else, any shading, any other size line, it just says, hey, this wants to be colored in, and it uses the etching settings. A couple are just things to realize, and for our machine as well, when you're ready to print something, you don't want to print the SVG file. You want to go to File, Save As, and you want to save it as a PDF file. And that's how our laser cutter prints. Just make sure, you work and edit the SVG file, but then when you save it as or when you export it, I guess when you're ready to print, you save as, keep the SVG file, because that's when you can edit, but then you want to save it as a PDF file, and that's the one that we're going to send to the laser cutter to cut. The last quick thing I want to talk about is just, if you notice, when I'm navigating through this window, there's a couple key commands that are very useful to move around inside here without trying to use the bars and moving stuff around. The scroll bar by itself on your mouse just moves things up and down. If you hold down Shift and use the scroll bar on your mouse, it moves things side to side. And if you hold down Control and use your scroll bar, it zooms in and it zooms out. It just makes it a lot easier to kind of navigate through here without having to kind of reach down and stuff and try to zoom in and zoom out and find different things. So that's it for how to set up your file. Check out some other videos to tell you how to actually create stuff inside there.